Welcome back to this course, and in this session we're going to talk about domain name and domain name services. And something you should know is that you need a domain name to point to your website. So what are domain names? Domain names are address to your websites. Like for instance, if you want to go to Facebook, you have to use the domain name, which is www.facebook.com, to go to Facebook. So that's the domain name for you. But domain name has some abstract sense to it because it points to the address where your website is located, where your website is hosted. So domain name and hosting goes together. In this case, we are talking about the domain name only, and we'll talk about domain name. I'll explain the concept of domain name to you fully. I'll show you how to get domain name. I'll show you how to search for domain name and where to get them from. I'll do all that in this particular session. But for now, as you can see, this is facebook.com, and that's the domain name to Facebook because that's where Facebook is hosted. But there is an abstract sense to it. This domain name actually, there are numbers, and address resolution protocol resolute them into names so that people can remember easily. Like you can easily remember www.facebook.com that remembering some sort of number. So you can then look at the IP address of this domain name. So we have the domain name server address of this domain name, which are in numbers. These are in letters, in names that you can easily remember. You can look up the IP. What is my IP? Let's just request my IP DNS. There is a website I'm looking for. So this was my IP.com. What is my IP.com is where we can look at the domain name server of facebook.com. So let's try and look for the domain name server address for facebook.com, and we're going to see the server address. They are in numbers. So just imagine you trying to remember all these numbers instead of you remembering www.facebook.com. Would that be so stressful for you? It will be so stressful, of course. That's why these numbers are resolute into addresses, letter addresses, word addresses that you can easily remember. If I use this same number to access Facebook, it's going to take me back to Facebook. That's what you should know. So this is the domain name server IP. So let me just paste the IP on my web browser and see if it takes me back to Facebook. So once I use the IP, it's going to tell me it's not secure because it's an IP address. Of course, you don't have a security layer for an IP address. So I'll click on the advanced and proceed to the IP address, and it's going to take me back to Facebook, right where I should be. So that's something about domain name services. They are so powerful, and it takes me back to Facebook. As you can see, the same place it took me here is the same place it's brought me here. So that is domain name service for you. And you can get a domain name. If you want to get a domain name for your website as a website designer, you can easily get a domain name. There are places you can get domain name. I will recommend 2 websites for you where you can get domain names from, and you can still search for websites. You can do your research. That's the most interesting thing about being a web designer. You have to do research yourself. You have to check out things. You have to check things that are comfortable for you, where to get domain names, where to get your hosting service. But I will recommend 2 websites. The first website I will recommend is a very popular one. I will recommend GoDaddy as the first website where you can get your domain name. Then I will go to GoDaddy, and I will recommend Namecheap as the second website you can get your domain name. I will go to the website right here. So these are the 2 websites where you can get domain name from. So let's say we want to get domain name from this for these our current websites. We can easily get domain name by searching for your domain name here on GoDaddy. So for instance, we are talking about Beloved Love the Web. So we'll just look for Beloved Love the Web. That's our website name. Then we're going to search for domain names that are available for Beloved Love the Web. On GoDaddy, as you can see, he said this could be the start of something great. He's trying to look up the Beloved Love the Web for us, the available domain names for Beloved Love the Web. As you can see, we have belovedlovetheweb.uk.uk. These are extensions to your domain name. So we have different extensions. We have .edu, we have .info, we have a lot of extensions, but this is the one available, and we don't want this .co.uk. This is telling us it's pointing to the UK direction, and we are not in the UK. .com is a worldwide web extension, which is general, is global. But when you are specific like this .co.uk, it means your website is hosted in the UK, or your audience are mostly in the UK. Let's say you are from Nigeria, for an instance, your website can be .ng. That means your website is hosted in Nigeria, and most of your customers are Nigerians. You understand? Most of your readers, most of people that will visit your website are Nigerians. So you can do that, or you can go for the global version, and this is belovedlovetheweb.com. as you can see, domain names are very cheap actually. As you can see, this one says 1.16 for the very first year. This one says 11.999 for the very first year for general. Why this is just for the first year, but we are not buying a domain name. I'm just showing you how you could get a domain name, and we have different extensions. This says AI, I'll guess artificial intelligence. This says stores, maybe you are building a store. This says .co, this says .me. They have varieties of prices and varieties of extensions, so you can click one of those extensions. You might want to look up a domain name, for instance. So let's look for beloved of the web here as well and see if it's available here on Namecheap. So let's see how much it is on Namecheap and compare the prices. Domain names are entirely cheap, and it doesn't matter where you get them from. You can easily buy domain name from anywhere and buy your hosting as well and connect the hosting and domain name later. It's as simple as that. You just need a domain name to point to your website. Now we have the belovedoftheweb.com here, and it says 9.58 per year. We can buy it from any of these websites. You can buy it here. If you want to buy it here, you can buy it here. That's all about domain name. I hope to see you in the next session where I'm going to talk about hosting service. Then we get to kick it on from there, where we talk about hosting service. I hope to see you in the next video. See you there.